Anderson Midgett talks about running the Manteo to Hatteras bus line with his brothers. He was 17 years old when the bus service began in 1938. Amy Glass interviewed Mr. Midgett in 1988 for the Southern Oral History program. The Outer Banks Community Foundation provided funds to digitize the original recording.
My dad had helped us get a bus line started. It was my daddy's idea. We being kids, I think he wanted to try to keep us busy because we stayed busy from little boys. Besides, he needed a way to get home from Ocracoke that he was stationed. That's what I always used to kid him about. One of the reasons he thought up on the bus line. Anyway, that bus line we started in July 28th, 1938, and we operated it for 35 years. My dad died September 12th, 1938, so he was only with us for a short time. So we sort of were just a bunch of kids trying to do something. But we did run the bus, and we carried many passengers on it. And we used to bring just about anybody that left from Ocracoke to go to Norfolk. They all traveled with us. Ocracoke, Hatteras, and Buxton, Avon, Rodanthe, Ways, and Salvo, all of them. So most of the people that went off island went with us, rode with us. So we got to know just about everybody, in the whole area. Of course, there was no roads at that time. So you drove anywhere you could. We used to call it the 101 roads, because there was no really designated road that you went every day. If the tide was out, you drove the surf. If the tide was in, you drove probably the bank of the beach, or what we would call inside roads, which was a dozen up and down the beaches that you'd pick out which you thought was better. And when one got too bad, you'd start making another one. But it was a daily service, and it was there again, a lot of fun, something that was hard work, but we didn't know it. We didn't realize it. Something that I couldn't do today, but I thoroughly enjoyed. We had a lot of experiences on the bus line, like we've lost buses. I mean, when I say lost them to tide. During the trip. We have had inlets were cut in one storm while we were running the buses in 44. And they had about 4 inlets that was cut on the island, and we crossed those inlets. A lot of times, in a bus, and a lot of times we drove way out in the Sound, like a mile in the Sound, to get around the deep water in a bus. So we knew buses, and we knew the island. So we still continued a bus line, even after that. We broke a lot of springs. It was a daily thing. It wasn't unusual to break a spring a day on those buses, work on them half the night to get them ready for the next day. We started our little garage and kept them painted and kept them washed down. And in other words, we did our own work on the buses. There was 3 of us boys. There was Harold, my older brother, who died about 7 years back, and Stockton, my younger brother. There was 3 of us in it together. We worked it pretty hard and steady. From that bus line, I suppose we've always worked together. Our dad taught us to work together. So we came back and really have been working together ever since. I could tell you, could go on and on about the bus line, but there was a lot of beautiful experiences in it, a lot of hard times. We kept the banks very busy, getting money from them for buses that we would leave on the side of the road, but we always paid for those, so we always had good credit, so we could always buy another bus. We must have used in our operation, or I would say of the 35 years, it's over 100 buses. We started out with little station wagons. That's what our buses were really Ford station wagon. Yeah, new, 38. That's what we really started with. And we used a lot of them. Sometimes we'd run 3 of the small ones together. You know, we'd have as many as 3 on the road at the same time. And then we finally got into the buses like school buses, only built higher, you know, so that you have headroom in it. And we run those for years. We hardly ever had too much to trade when we got through with them down here. You know, because it was rough on vehicles, very rough.
Driving through the South,
Yeah.
I imagine it would be.
Yeah. So most of the time we might sell them to somebody. Most of the time we used them right down to where there wasn't much left of them. I remember we used to get $2.50 from Hatteras to Manteo. That would have probably been about in the probably 40, 41. But the fare never did go up over 2.75. You know, it's probably started out originally maybe about 2.25. I think it went to 2.75, like from Hatteras to Manteo, one way, yes. And we would usually go loaded and come back loaded. And it took really we barely survived on the bus line because it would take what you could make out of it to keep the buses going.
Sure.
You know, it was that was our work. We'd meet the boat coming from Ocracoke every morning around 8:15. It would take us. We would take 4 hours and a half from here to Oregon Inlet. That's what that was scheduled. And it was a tight schedule. We'd cross the ferry with Captain Toby, go into Manteo, make connections with the Virginia Dairy Transportation Company bus, probably have about anywhere from an hour, half an hour to an hour in Manteo, and turn right around and come back to Hatteras. And that was a daily schedule, 7 days a week. And we didn't miss many days. We had a little bus station here at Hatteras, which now we have as the old convenient store right next door. And in the other villages, we had different places, like mostly the different stores, that we had scheduled stops, and people would go to them, or if they were right on the road, we'd always stop and pick them up wherever. Like if their home happened to be on the road, they knew to set their suitcase out, and we'd stop and pick them up. Same way, you know, like going off. But we had right many tourists that would drive or come in by bus to Manteo and take our bus and come down. Fishermen, you know, we brought a lot of fishermen down at that time, and even campers that we've brought down that would camp different areas of the island. But most of our people were natives. All the people that went away to work in the first of the war, you know, I can think of many of them that really didn't have the money to go away to get a job, that we would haul up. When they come back, they'd have money, you know, and pay us for it. And they ride with us for years and years. You know, each time they came back home. A lot of people went to work on what they call the dredge boats from around this island. And they'd go as far up as Delaware, Philadelphia, for jobs. So there was a lot of people, working people, that traveled with us. All the Coast Guard people, when they went on Liberty, most all of them traveled with us.